Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
And Andrew.
Sorry, uh, yeah,
Oh,
Andrew.
you're handling things? Okay.
Yeah.
Tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 1972 movie Deliverance. Nathan, what's your history with Deliverance?
I remember the squeal like a pig sequence was in a song
Okay.
that I heard, and I forget which song that
Oh,
was.
were you saying that might have been a ministry song or something?
Let me just look it up. It was either a ministry or a skinny puppy. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Let me look that up. But yeah, that was, I heard about it in some weird 90s song I was listening to. I was like, what's that from? And it's like, oh, that's from it was from a movie called The Deliverance. But I was like, I should have looked this up.
Yeah, that's all I know from is like basically comedians making fun of scenes from this movie. So I don't know if it was actually like successful or just kind of infamous. um, like
Well, it definitely has a lot of star power behind it for the time.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was looking at Burt Reynolds stuff, and I was like, was he a star at the time? And this is kind of his first movie. I mean, he had like a lot of TV work under his belt, but this seemed like his first big movie. So I don't know.
Yeah, this was actually his first big movie. The big star in this movie was John Voight.
Oh, okay.
He had the most name recognition because I think did he get an Academy Award nomination for Midnight Cowboy?
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm not sure which one it was, but he even said he wanted to do this movie because he'd kind of derailed his career a little bit
Yeah.
after that. So, yeah, John Voight was actually the most recognizable guy in this. Because Ronnie Cox, this was his first movie.
And Ned Beatty's been around. So.
Ned Beatty, yeah.
Which it seems weird that like it seems like this would like ruin his career, but like he had a totally perfect career after this. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because he very, very well played a guy that got fucked in the ass against consent.
Yeah, but you think that'd be only people think about, but then like you remember him in Network, and he's awesome in that.
Silver Streak. He was also wasn't he always Lex Luthor's sidekick in the Superman movies?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he did a lot of things.
Oh yeah, he's basically a character actor.
Yeah.
Also, like in this movie, he's like the fat guy when he's just basically fat by comparison. It's like,
yeah,
that's 70s fat. I wish I was that fat.
Yeah, he had a not fairly normal physique in this movie compared to what we got going on today.
Well, yeah, like Voight and Cox are basically just like fed on stew and don't have any meat on their bones. So it's like yeah, that's just how people looked in the 70s. Everything tasted awful, so like nobody ate anything. So.
Yeah, and everything had real sugar in it. And you split a Coke with your friends. Coke was something that was like poured into two equal sized cups and then filled the rest of the way up with whiskey because that's what made the pain stop. That was the 70s. Everyone was very thin, very good looking people back then. Got kind of fucked up teeth though.
Oh yeah.
Better teeth now than they did.
Yeah, I like that these are like the city guys and their teeth are also fucked up.
Yeah, it's like, these $1 million Hollywood smiles we all have now is like that's definitely progress.
Yeah, there's even like there's been people I've heard like people talking about like Hollywood people and like professionals telling them like don't fix your teeth. It's like it makes you unique. Like don't do it. So,
Huh.
because I know like Ben Affleck got like those big teeth and now he just kind of looks he kind of looks like every other actor. So I don't know, that happened big against like Jennifer Grey because everyone was like, you got that nose, like it makes you look bad. You're so pretty, and then she gets her nose done, and then she just looks like every other girl from California. It's like that fucking ruined her career because she had nothing unique anymore.
Yeah, you got to stand out.
Yeah, you gotta have like 9 things that are A plus, and then just one C minus thing. So. and then you're good to go.
Kind of interesting though about the cast of this movie. Have we said them all yet?
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, it was because originally this movie was James Dickey, the author of the book Deliverance, really wanted Sam Peckinpah to direct this movie.
That makes sense.
Would have been right up his alley. And they also, what was the original cast member? Oh, it was supposed to be, all these guys were offered and passed, with Peckinpah as the supposed director was, oh, damn it, why am I drawing a blank on that? Famous Charlton Heston
Okay, yeah.
with Marlon Brando.
Yeah, sure.
And I forget who else they had in mind.
Would have been who would have been at that time? Who's the small guy that's like, then with Tom Cruise and that one movie where he's autistic?
Oh, Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't him. I was trying to. The third guy was. Why am I drawing a blank? Because I had all this. I should have taken notes. But yeah, it was. Oh, now it's going to drive me nuts. Who was the third guy it was supposed to be? But anyway, so yeah, it was essentially like Charlton Heston, Marlon Brando. Oh, and the guy who he just died. He played. He'd be known to the younger generation as President Snow in the Hunger Games.
Oh, Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland was supposed to be like the Ronnie Cox character.
Okay.
Which actually, yeah, all of that would have worked. But the problem is, one of the problems is Sam Peckinpah had burned his bridges with Warner Brothers because I think he spent more drinking making the Ballad of Cable Hogue than he did what they wanted to spend to make this movie. They were like, yeah, he's out. We don't want him. So then John Borman came along and he just wanted unknown character actors.
Okay.
John Voight came to him and they're like, yeah, we don't have John Voight Monday. And he's like, no, I'll just do it. I'll do it. So him and John Borman had a fairly intense conversation. He was like, all right. And then Burt Reynolds was like a shoe-in. I guess he did a great audition. And
so like history I heard about like with Burt Reynolds is like pretty interesting because he was like a running back for Arkansas or something like that.
Mhm.
And he did a lot of TV, and so he like a lot of his movies like don't have he just does a lot of fun movies. They don't have a lot of like necessarily like importance behind them. But he supported so much art in the background of like people he respected, of like things that are seen as like, oh, this is important. And he just did that in the background without any of that necessarily wanting recognition for it. While he did like basically kind of like, popcorn movies on his own, because like he just played in his lane. It's like, well, I'm just a dude, so.
Yeah, he's he's an interesting, complex guy.
Yeah.
Who became really, really popular and then just, I don't know, kind of disappeared.
Yeah, and he kind of come back when he did Boogie Nights, so he got like,
Yeah.
I can't remember if he won an Oscar for that or just nominated. Probably just nominated, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he was like the guy in the mid 70s to the mid 80s.
yeah. I mean, the Smoking the Bandits and the Cannonball Runs and all that stuff.
Yep.
Sharky's Machine. Yeah, I know more of Burt Reynolds than I think I've actually seen his movies, and also I really like the now I'm forgetting his name. Who's the comedian that died that always did the Weekend Update stuff?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he played what was his name? Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald. He it was like the one impression he could do was Burt Reynolds. And like he had they had the fun thing where they had like because there's always the rumors of the casting behind Star Wars, and like Han Solo is going to be Burt Reynolds, and like
Yes. Remember that.
so it's just him as Burt Reynolds, like it's like Chewie, he's just smacking guns like it's just stuff like that. Which yeah, Burt Reynolds does have that kind of weird laugh, which I think he worked on because like he does have that laugh in this movie, but it's like incomplete from how he does his laugh in like other movies.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know a couple of his movies, like they just freeze on his laugh, like it's the end of the movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, this was kind of the prototype of that.
yeah. I also think he's like 35 in this movie or something like that. So.
All these guys are, yeah,
Yeah.
they're all in their mid-30s.
Which that's what the book's about, basically like middle-aged men trying to like rediscover their youth and by doing something dangerous and then finding more than they bargained for. So.
And then you find out they're all 35, and that's middle age, and you're like, how old am I?
I'm older than these guys.
20 years older than these guys, or no, 15, yeah. But also, I grew up at a different time and place, a much fatter, easier time, when people didn't age quite so fast, but still died at the same time. But,
yeah. And then what's your history with the book? Did you ever read that before the movie, or like you were saying before you came on here, it was like a class project that you did?
Yeah, I did. We're doing a class, some kind of a class writing project. I forget what the course was called, but I know we were doing like the Joseph Campbell mythology type stuff, and we had to. It's like because we're focused on like the hero with 1,000 faces, which is like basically all mythology kind of has the same roots. And it's like, yeah, pick a book and like compare it to this. And a lot of people, of course, went with the obvious, like Lord of the Rings, Beowulf. It's like, I'm doing Deliverance because it too it's the hero's journey, just a darker version. And the heroes aren't necessarily heroes, but they're not necessarily bad people either. They are men in a situation. And it's like, who are the bad guys in this? And it's like nature, which
the government.
Weird. Well, it's like because my view, or how did I explain it? And I was always like, I'm going to do something different, not necessarily to maybe get the right thing out of it, but I'm going to look at it in a weird way. But it's like here, like nature was evil. It was this, they were going into something that makes people evil, that represents eating, killing. It's like that's all nature is, and it's about to be a dead place because mankind is finally gonna control nature here by damming off this river and building. It's very reminiscent of like Tennessee Valley Authority project. It's like 40 years before, but set in a modern kind of fiction.
It's mentioned compared directly in the book and this movie, I believe.
Yeah. So this is like a fictional place. Like there's no river like this. There is a river like this in Georgia, but it was never dammed up or anything.
Oh, okay.
This is more like what if they did the TVA in the early 70s and they were doing this to this place.
So do you know anything about the construction shots in the movie? Is that an actual dam being built somewhere, or what's that going on there?
I don't actually know. I think they were building like subdivisions for homes.
Oh, okay.
And they were doing stuff like that, or they might have been doing some strip mining too. I'm not sure because the opening shot, I mean, they probably just like, hey, can we get some like. Because I know this movie was made literally for $2 million. Whining about that. They didn't have insurance on when they made this.
Yeah, let's put them in boats and send them down a river.
Have them climb up rock faces. So they did have some stunt doubles, but mainly the stunt doubles more trained them how to operate the boat because they really couldn't do like the stunt double type photography.
Yeah,
most of their money got spent on this movie on like re-recording their voices.
Yeah,
and doing voice acting all over again because the place they were shooting was so loud because it was a roaring river. Everyone's voice had to be redone. And then there's a really weird day for night shot they did, which I thought there was something wrong with my copy of the disc the first time I saw it. And then I realized, they're doing day for night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Andrew,
but yeah, that was kind of like, that was kind of like what it was like men going into a dying place that's like raging against humanity and it's like strike out at them one last time. The teacher thought that was interesting. It's like, I'd never thought of it that way.
And Andrew, is this the first time watching this movie? Or have you only experienced this through pop culture, or what's your history with Deliverance?
I mean, I kind of recognize the line, but otherwise, my first time watching the movie and kind of earned after like the main scene that everybody quotes and stuff like that and knows like accurately predicting the rest of the movie for the rest of the runtime.
Yeah, because that's all I know the movie was like men go in the woods and get raped by like rednecks, and so it's like, oh, okay, why would I want to watch that movie?
So after I finished, I paid attention to the movie. I didn't. I didn't buckle my pants, so I felt like that would be closure. So, no, it was. I don't know if I just do this with like movies when I'm like I know like the main thing I'm going into it for, but like I really did like Ronnie Cox. Like I forgot I didn't know he was in this movie.
You know, Dick Jones in this movie.
and then
Well, that's I
obviously,
mean, we when we watch RoboCop, that's the thing that Nathan found out is that like Ronnie Cox is like this like celebrated like country singer all over the world, and so this is actually like makes sense. Then it's like let's hire this guitar player for our actor. So,
okay.
and I just
And
know him
this-
as the evil corporate guy.
Yeah, he does a lot of Verhoeven stuff because he was Dick Jones and he was the guy had a weird like Eastern European name in Total Recall. Was he Velos Cohagen or
Oh
something?
yeah.
Yeah, wasn't quite the standout villain in that, but as he was in RoboCop. But yeah, and there's also Captain Jellicoe, the only other guy in the Next Generation who was ever captain of the Enterprise.
and he was also a captain in Beverly Hills.
Yep,
But
Beverly Hills Cop.
and also the guy that fucked Ned Beatty in the ass is also in First Blood as a sheriff for some reason. So
Oh yeah,
Well, after I read the book, that got suggested to me, and I picked it up. Because the fun thing I know about First Blood, this is a story I heard from the Action Boys podcast. So I'm stealing from them that they took from a real life story, and so it's all half remembered and done right. But the guy who wrote First Blood, like, he didn't like, he was like a teacher. That's what he did for money, and so he thought like writing novels was just going to be like a side thing and like it was never going to take off. And so he just went to a lawyer to figure out like rights stuff on how to like, you know, like basically copyright his book and like think of things in the future. And so he didn't go to like, you know, a specific like copyright lawyer. He just went to a lawyer. And then like that guy like figured out all this stuff. It's like, all right. And he wrote up a contract to sell the rights for First Blood to like either, I can't remember if like Sylvester Stallone bought it or a studio bought it, but like he included things in there like, all right, you get rights on the sequels, you get like rights on like lunch pails and stuff like that. Like these are all the cuts of all this stuff, and the guy's like, "The fuck you talking about?" He dies at the end of the book. Like when he's like, "Look, man, you don't know what Hollywood's gonna do with this shit."
they're not going to just read the book and like film that scene for scene.
And then of course what happens, yeah, it becomes like a celebrated like multi-movie franchise. There's like children's cartoon.
This somber book about the horrors of a Vietnam vet returning home from war and kind of this introspective violence that goes on becomes like lunchboxes and action movies. And this guy's probably like, great, I have this huge house, but what did I give up? You know?
So yeah, like I said, I have First Blood as well. I'll have to listen to that because there seems to be a preamble on it, so it might be that whole story I just related to you. All right, well, I guess we'll get into the movie. Act 1, we open on a flooded valley. Is the opening shot here? Is this after they've dammed it up and flooded the valley, or is this before?
I'm assuming this is like in progress. It's showing the effect.
Okay, all right.
Because there's trees that are just like in the water.
Yeah,
like they're obviously like up to their tops almost.
You hear 4 friends are planning like a weekend trip. Because here they're talking about like, yeah, we see footage of a dam being built, but I'm actually sure not what's going on here. There's siren blares before an explosion, which I was waiting for like the water to like rush in or something like that, but that never happened. So this is completely unrelated construction to a dam, I'm guessing. Basically, like, what you pick out of the voiceover is that they're gonna go like whitewater rafting down this river before it all gets like filled in as a lake for the dam. So it's like, and they have no idea how dangerous this is. There's only one guy who knows what he's doing, and that's Lewis. And even at the end of the movie, you find out like, well, even he's like winging it. So
it was a lot more bravado with Lewis than knowledge.
Yeah, but in the books, there's more like backstory to him, where like he broke his leg, like kayaking alone, and then like walked his way out of the forest. So it's like, oh, he's a badass. But then it's like it basically just happens again, and he has to be carried out. So it's like, but also that's his whole thing. Is like he's supposed to be like the ultimate man, and even he like succumbs to like weakness and is hurt, and so it's like sometimes you just can't avoid it. So
Yeah.
that's nature. Um, which that's in the book that's also more elements because it's also done from Ed's perspective, and he's like a graphic artist, and he owns like a graphic artist studio, and they just kind of do like industrial stuff and like local advertising and things like that. And
Yeah.
so like he's basically trying, and he's like getting older, and so like thinning hair and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, I want to feel like a man again. So like whenever he like talks about Lewis, it's like this. He's always like talking about his muscles and body structure because like they're the same age, but they're like completely different, and how they've upkept their body and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that stuff in the book that's not really here. So, but that's why you hire, I guess for 70s, Burt Reynolds was a muscle guy. So
Believable tough guy.
I mean, you can see he had like the vein on his arms. Like nobody else had that. So
He was wearing a cool diving suit all the time.
yeah, and they cut the arms off so he could show off his arms. So
Yeah. Very 70s.
Also,
Actually, this would be very proto 70s. So this would be like 60s, late 60s. Really.
And then I can't remember. Do you remember the line that actually, like, the titular line from the novel where it actually says the line "Deliverance"? I'm getting it mixed up. There's something where like the company hires like a nude model to come in, and he's drawing her to get like reference for a advertising campaign.
Yeah.
And then like when he has sex with his wife, he basically imagines himself having sex with this woman, and there's something about a golden eye on her back, and like him basically feeling ecstasy, and he just says "Deliverance." I don't know if you remember that, Nathan, but that's in the book. So.
I do remember the that. So I do remember like the book. It's almost like Ed is almost the main character.
Oh yeah. It's from his perspective. So
yeah. So it's like, but in the movie, it's more like it's different. It's like he almost. Yeah, it seems like a more of a like a part of the quartet versus like I remember the book is almost always from his point of view.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I can't recall when that is uttered.
But it's not uttered in the movie.
No.
So. And I don't even like I don't know. I guess I didn't even like pick it apart. But what does necessarily deliverance mean in the context of the movie?
Well, it's I always assumed it was like deliverance to a new state of being. Like it's because this is like a journey these men will go on, and they will be delivered into they will be delivered into who they are.
Okay.
And what they sought to get out of this and what they did get out of it were different things. But that's why it was
because I always assume like deliverance is like a biblical term, and like deliver us from evil and stuff like that. So
yeah. It
I mean, when they finally get out of the water, they end up at a church that's being put on like a
wheels.
Yeah. We see two cars with kayaks. They're driving through the mountains. Which here they're saying like they're in northern Georgia, but what this was filmed in Appalachia.
I think so, yeah.
Like the Appalachian Mountains don't go to Georgia, right? They just like stop in like Tennessee or something like that. I can't remember.
That's a good question. I do believe
no, Tennessee's too far left or whatever. But yeah, so in this context, they're like city boys.
Yeah, they're from Atlanta, the big city. Everyone's trying to have a Southern accent in this.
Yeah, well, that's the fun thing. If you like, it happens. They point it out more deliberately in the book, but it does happen here, where it's as they get in the movie, the more their accents pick up.
Yeah.
Especially, and it's almost like a way like you don't know if they're like doing that naturally or if they're like condescending to the local people. Like it's both. So it's like, because all these people here are messed up. So, but that's like, they pull up to some like backwater gas station or something. Lewis, played by Burt Reynolds. We get Bobby, played by Ned Beatty. Drew, played by Ronnie Cox, and Ed, played by John Voight. They talk to an attendant or something because this just looks like a house. It doesn't look like a gas station. It just looks like somebody lives here and happens to have a gas station. Which,
It's like a gas pump outside of a shack.
yeah,
It's like it's made out of different grades and varieties of wood. It's like there's almost no uniformity to anything in this
yeah.
world.
And like presumably this is gonna be underwater in 2 weeks, and the people just haven't moved out yet or something.
I think so, yeah.
uh, which that's kind of like the government intrusion, like on these people and stuff like that, where it's like they're paranoid about everything because like their land's about to be taken away, even though presumably they would have been paid to leave, but they like to have their own place where they can do whatever they want. So, um, so yeah, Lewis tells the guy to fill the cars up with gas. We get Drew is playing guitar. There's a kid on the porch responding back with a banjo. In the book, he's like a kid who's nonverbal and is like a albino with red eyes.
Yeah.
But here it's just kind of a weird kid. And then we get the famous dueling banjo scene, which if you watch the credits, because this is an old movie, because you got like the pre-credit roll before like the movie starts, where you get like production credits, like not just like stars and stuff like that. And like they even mention that in the credits, like who's credited for the dueling banjo stuff.
Yeah.
Which is yeah, this is based on something, right? This isn't something necessarily original for this movie, or do you know anything about it?
Well, this is it. There was actually a lawsuit about it after the movie came out.
Oh, okay.
But it was one of those, like, dueling banjos is something. It's kind of like House of the Rising Sun. It's like no one knows who originally came up with that song.
Yeah.
Everyone's just been kind of doing a version of it since like the 50s. And so dueling banjos was sort of the same thing. Like there'd always been a version of this. But I forget that somebody had the copyright to something called feuding banjos, which didn't have all the progressions and stuff in it, but the music, it sounded very similar. It was like just two things that played, like you play one, I play one, you play one, and then we'll merge up. And we'll try to just do all these, chord progressions until somebody can't do it anymore. But I'm not sure exactly how how it got worked out. I know somebody sued and won money.
Okay.
And because the guy who said he produced and wrote the song his name was Arthur Guitar Bookie Smith. I don't know if he was born with that name, but it's an interesting name nonetheless. So,
but there's also,
I know they use like, what's the other thing they use? They use like synthesizers to play it throughout the movie also.
Yeah. Okay.
Like dueling banjos is basically the soundtrack for this movie, but a lot of it's done with like dueling banjos through like a 70s like Moog synthesizer and stuff. So, which is actually really cool, but there is no soundtrack for this movie, I guess. All the conflicting lawsuits and stuff. So, you can only listen to it in the movie, or I'm sure you could find passages on the internet if you wanted to.
But yeah, there's usually the da na 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 is usually like in a comedy to signify danger.
Yes.
Which comes out of this movie. So. Even though here it's a fun little thing, like when they really get going, like everyone's dancing and grooving to the music.
Yeah, everyone's having a good time.
And even this kid who seems to be like nonverbal and not really sociable is like he's laughing, or he has a smile. And he's like, does he have teeth? I can't remember. But
yeah, he does.
Okay. So yeah, they finish up the song, and then Drew tries to shake the kid's hand, but he just like looks away from him. He's like, all right, whatever. Which is clearly a kid, but he's like, thanks, man. So it's like, I don't know what's going on here. Like one person's calling him a man, but he's clearly a child, but who knows? So,
his name was actually William Redden.
Oh, okay.
I think he was 12 years old on the set, and there was actually nothing wrong with him because he was an actor. You could obviously instruct him or whatever. He just kind of had that look to him.
Yeah.
And of course, they basically dressed him up like a classic hillbilly. And but I guess he really did not like Ed Beatty for some reason, because he really thought Ronnie Cox was cool. And he interacted with him because Ronnie Cox would show up and just start playing a guitar. And of course, now the kid, they had to have an actual banjo player put his arms in from behind the kid, costumed him so he could play, because he couldn't play the banjo like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when So when Ronnie Cox kept sticking his hand out, put her there, immediately the kid would do it. And John Borman was like, no, no, no. So they made Ned Beatty come close and stand by him. And that kid really just, I don't know, he didn't like Ned Beatty. Why? But he was like, now, don't shake his hand or whatever. But the hand that was stuck out, supposedly it was like a few takes, it was Ned Beatty.
Okay.
So he would immediately get that where he looked away thing. It's like, oh, okay.
They get back in their cars. They drive on down to the Griner brothers to get drivers because they need people to drive their cars to the end, so that when they end at the kayak trip, they can just hop in their cars and go.
Yeah.
Which just seems precarious. Like pay people to like hopefully bring the cars where they're supposed to be. It's like why don't
these people are driving cars that look like they were made for the Road Warrior. It's like we can trust them with our brand new automobiles. We're not gonna just disappear deep into the woods, but. Yeah.
There's also talk of insurance. So I'm guessing that's more like maybe that's inside stuff, inside stuff here because you said the film wasn't insured, and they're talking. And Lewis has a whole thing about like he likes to gamble, so he doesn't like insurance or something like that.
Yeah, there's no risk without insurance, and the one guy works in insurance. And I don't know. Yeah, because the guy who wrote the book, James Dickey, was also that wrote the screenplay, and he was on set constantly.
Okay.
And he liked to throw a lot of stuff in because a lot of the dialogue in the book and a lot of the dialogue in the movie seems similar.
Yeah.
But I guess like John Borman and James Dickey got into a fist fight over the script one time, and he knocked a bunch of John Borman's teeth out because James Dickey had about 100 pounds on John Borman.
Okay.
He was this big Southern boy. He used to play football and was like a what do they call the guys in the bomber planes in World War II? The navigators or the bombardiers or something. Yeah. I mean, he had a very wild past. He was actually more of a poet than an author.
Oh, okay.
This was his first big book.
Yeah, I don't know any. I like this is the only time I heard him, so I don't know if he has any other famous work or anything like that.
Lot of this is his most famous book. He did a lot of poetry.
Okay.
He's a well-regarded poet. I read some of it for the show, but it's like, well, that's interesting, but I'm not really a poetry guy.
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of cool because it was very like, it was kind of like the tone of the book. It was somber.
Yeah.
It was like talking about animal heaven, where animals have no souls and no thought, but we welcome them anyway with their bright, wet eyes. They love us. And it's just like kind of like imagine that, but in a poet, like a multi-stanza poet, and it's like poem, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting and dark. Yeah. Yeah, but he loved to drink and fight on the set. And he claimed that it's like, I didn't just write this story. This stuff really happened to me. And everyone kind of looked at each other like, okay, play along with it. This guy's providing.
I'm not going to fight this guy.
I'm not going to fight this lunatic. He just out of the director. Him and John Borman actually became friends. And John Borman came to like him so much, he played the sheriff at the end of the movie.
Oh, okay. Huh.
I was the actual sheriff.
Okay.
Deputy with that was James Dickey.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, him and John Borman actually came to got along. It wasn't the case at first because
that's how like
John Borman's interview was kind of like, I came to respect his passion, maybe not his accuracy, but his passion was impressive.
But also that seemed to be like some old school stuff where like you fight people and you become friends, where nowadays it's like you fight people and then there's a lawsuit and you never talk to each other ever again.
Yeah.
So
no one can just punch each other and get over it. It's got to carry on.
Which like that's probably how it should be, but it kind of seems fun when you fight somebody and then they become your friends.
Yeah, that seems more like a movie concept or maybe something that does happen in the woods between two guys. But it's like any kind of workplace or whatever. It's like, no, you're done. You're both going to lose your job. I mean, you might like each other later, but I would rather not get hit in the face. Yeah. It's like, can we agree to disagree? No, I've got to punch you. It's like, oh, well, now I've got to like plan like a complex murder. Do this.
That would just escalate. So.
His car exploded. What? Oh. The humanity. But yeah, so yeah, it's this seemed to be like because John Borman's still alive, but he's in his 90s. So yeah, these are men of, and James Dickey fought in World War II, so these are men of a certain time.
Hey, and we're like, and presumably the guys in the movies are these guys who both were in between wars, and then is this like the Fight Club of its time? Like they weren't in wars, and so they just kind of they didn't have any purpose, and so this is them trying to like make a purpose in their life.
That could be.
Okay.
They didn't seem to mention that they had any had any Vietnam experience or anything.
No, because I think that's a specific thing in the book about how, like, they were too old for Vietnam and too young for Korea or something like that. So
yeah, and they're all college educated, so that would have like negated the draft. But it was interesting; they were all technically guys from Georgia.
Yeah.
So but they were like the rich people from Atlanta. Because they were damming up they were damming up this river so they could build a hydro plant to keep the air conditioners in Atlanta running. I've been there a few times. It's very air conditioning running.
They have giant cockroaches there. They're not like New York cockroaches, but they're pretty big. So.
Yeah, they're big and they could take flight.
They look in the house and they see an old lady that's taking care of a deformed child. So it's like, well, this looks bad.
Yeah.
We need to abandon this place, and they're just hanging out. They talk to one of the grinders. He warns of going down the river. Lewis haggles with the guy to like hire them as drivers, which again, this doesn't seem like a great idea. It's like, we're gonna trust you with our cars, but we're not giving you an extra $10.
Yeah, the encounter between Lewis and the head grinder, who was like working on an anvil, like a blacksmith shop, and he popped his head in and just yelled at him, and then he smacked his hand, and then the grinder went outside and he had to kick the car. He's like, damn. It's like, you all right? He's like, it ain't as bad as I thought it'd be, So he smashed his hand with a hammer, and but then they have this real like hostile negotiation. It's like, I'll pay you $30. You and some boys take these cars down to Antry or wherever. And he's like 50, and he's like, no, like you don't know what you're talking about. So getting ready to like
my ass.
Yeah, it's like they're getting ready to hit each other. Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, but go ahead, yeah. Then they work it out. They're gonna drive the. I love the cars they had in this too.
Yeah, I thought it was like some sort of Bronco at first, but it was the International Harvester Scout 800.
Yep, International Harvester Scout. That's
which I'm guessing is also probably worth a lot of money right now. So.
Yeah, they sell for a lot of money. There's not many examples left
because those old Broncos are also worth tons of money. So people really like that trucks, that kind of, or whatever you'd call that style.
Early phase SUV is what I always thought of.
Or Jeep-like vehicles. So.
Yeah. Well, the Scouts were interesting because of how they're. I know someone who had one of those, and it was like a hydraulic 4-wheel drive system, like kind of back when that would be. Like you usually,
I imagine with the name like International Harvester, they made mostly farm equipment. So were they just dabbling and making cars here, or what was that for?
I think they made them all in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay,
that's where the big plant was. But they used instead of like mechanical locking type stuff to engage the 4-wheel drive system, they had hydraulic systems like levers you'd pull, and it also had a low and a high range that you could engage hydraulically. Like you didn't have to get out and lock things and stuff. So they were ahead of their time, but one of the terrible things they did was they used really cheap steel to save money. And the reason there's hardly any left is the bodies just literally disintegrated after 5 years. And of course, if they're 4-wheel drive vehicles with people running through the snow and the mud and the water, and it's the bodies just rot off of them. I mean, I saw one where some guy went 4-wheeling and the body was 2 inches to the right of the frame because it had just rotted. Where the bolts hold the body on the frame, well, those just rotted out and it just hopped over. I was like, that's weird because it's going down the road and the body's like this, but the frame is straight. It's an optical illusion. So yeah, not many of those left. And if you find one in good condition, they're about $30,000.
Oh, that seems low for me. I figured that'd fetch like $70,000 for something like that.
Well, I think if you can find one with a body intact, it's like $70,000. Usually, there was a company that made fiberglass bodies for them. You just put over them.
Okay.
But they also used Ford V8 engines. They didn't have their own engines. They never got that far.
I remember that, yeah, like the because I got that M1 Garand. There's like they send me these books about like all the other collectors M1 Garands, and the International Harvester ones are like the kind of the most prized ones they're seen, are the most well made M1 Garands.
Yeah, yeah. IH definitely. They had they overbuilt some things, and they had some very interesting design philosophies that were ahead of their time.
They still around,
But
or they just get absorbed by some company?
um, are they part of New Holland now? I'm not sure. Um, 'Cause who are the big ones? Because there's Deer, of course.
Now we run to Wikipedia. Quick, Andrew, cover.
Well, what I think about this movie so far is that everybody kind of, or I mean, after watching obviously the whole movie the first time and like thinking about it for a little bit, it just seems like expectations kind of hurt them in two separate ways. They expected an easy time on the river and not really like anything challenging. Like this was, they're macho enough to handle it, especially with their macho friend and lead. But also they expected all the people to be dumbass hillbillies. They're fucking looked down on and didn't respect and didn't care about. And then they had learned they had to respect them and care about them because they controlled their lives in multiple facets. So it was an interesting movie in that regard for me.
And that has been our Andrew check. International Harvester was defunct in 1985. So
Yep, it was part of Navistar for a while. And they made home appliances and stuff for a while too. They did a lot of things.
So yeah, they head out to like the start of the river, and um, Lewis takes the lead and like ends up going the wrong direction. Like he intentionally kind of like tries to almost run run up against the tow truck that they're driving with. We also get Chekhov's double barrel shotgun put in the back window. I don't think that's the same shotgun used later, but it's there. It's also like in the shotgun is also in like the artwork for Deliverance. So, and I think I'm not even sure if a shotgun's like actually used in this movie, but it's like it's around this movie for some reason, and like a lot of its artwork and stuff. So
Oh no, the shotguns, the double-barreled shotguns used in the woods during the rape scene.
yeah, but well, it doesn't get used.
Oh, it's fired? No, I don't think
No,
so.
it just exists. And then there's a rifle a guy has at the towards the end, but that's it. So
Yeah, that's a Winchester 1892, like a 30-30 deer rifle. The shotgun is patterned after an L.C. Smith Field double-barreled hammerless shotgun, which today would be worth about $3,000 or $4,000.
Lewis takes the lead of the convoy. He ends up going the wrong way. They do some rock climbing in the International Harvester Scout. Lewis hears the river and like stops the car and runs up a hill to look at it. Here's he got a pretty good line where he says, "Sometimes you have to lose yourself before you find anything." Then we have a river reveal where we kind of like almost like a Disney movie. We kind of pull the leaves apart and reveal the river. A lot of good nature photography in this movie. So.
Oh yeah.
So have that being the end of Act 1. We got to get these guys down the river. So. Act 2, they grab their gear. They set up the kayaks in the river, which I guess is important. Like one's aluminum and one's wood.
Yes.
I don't know whose is who. I think no, the aluminum one is Lewis's. I don't know who the wooden one is.
I'm not sure, but I know John Borman said they went through 15 of them in that movie.
They push off in the canoes, but they kind of struggle to find a rhythm. They're kind of like yelling at each other about like where they should paddle, which that's even done to more specifics in the book. They go under a makeshift bridge and they see the banjo boy there, who's just kind of like bemused by their existence.
Yeah.
Then they come upon some rapids, and then they go through them. They seem to have a fun and exciting time trying to keep the canoes upright. They get to a calm part, and then they celebrate for a moment, and then like Lewis warns them like, you don't beat this river. So even he's like predicting everything's gonna go bad. So. Which yeah, he's done like this is canoe, so he does rafting all the time. But I'm guessing he's never done this river before, so he really doesn't know what to expect here, right?
Yeah, that's what I got out of
Okay.
it.
Here he's talking about like how machines and systems will fail and all that's left is survival. So like, yeah, it's like much longer stuff in the book. How like Lewis is a survivalist and he has like, stockpiles of food in case the time, in case the end times come. So he's like ready for that.
50 some years ago, they were ready
Yeah.
for this. Still ready for it.
And like that's why he like lifts weights and is in good shape because he just needs to be ready for in the end times. So.
Yeah.
Which you
Ready
don't
for
need to do that anymore. Now you just need more ammo. to be out of shape. So.
and gold. You buy gold from Fox News. That'll fend off, whatever.
Then Ed says the system has done right by him as he like drinks a beer and leans back, and he's got a kid and a wife. And then like because he got this weird turn where like Lewis like looks at Ed and he's like, "Why do you go on these trips with me?" Which like it's more explained in the book where he's just like trying to feel more like a man. So, but I think that's why everybody goes on any like hunting or fishing trip because they all seem boring. But you have to convince somebody to come with you. It's like, come on, we'll feel one with nature. It's like this seems like it'll suck.
Usually does.
I've never been hunting I guess I've been fishing, but I never enjoyed it. It's like, well, you might as well do something. So.
Yeah, I've done all that. Never really got much out of it.
Lewis catches a fish by bow hunting it, which that kind of seems fun. You ever been fish bow hunting?
No, I've never. I have no experience with compound type bows.
Okay.
We played around with crazy crossbows a few times just because it's cool, and also scary. I gained a lot of respect for those weapons. It's like this is really destructive. Oh my God, this could...
Yeah, for some reason I thought there was a crossbow in this movie. I'm not sure why.
No, I don't.
There's just arrows.
Yeah, crossbows seem to be more of a recent thing.
Yeah, I think they were illegal in a lot of states, and now I think they're not necessarily anymore. So
yeah,
they might still be illegal in some states, but whatever. Because I remember you've like talked to them like like a decade ago. It's like, I mean, they're really cool, but like I don't think they're legal.
Yeah, I think there were certain limits on them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the cool ones where it has like basically a magazine cartridge, and I think those ones might not be legal everywhere. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes people wonder. It's like, why do you need a quick reload crossbow? It is a perfectly silent killing weapon.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's not like crossbow season, is there? Or can you hunt with a crossbow during bow season?
I thought you could if you were handicapped,
Okay, yeah.
but I don't know. Like I said, those rules change all the time, so I just don't know.
Yeah,
all the hunters that listen to this show are like, "No, you idiot! Yeah.
It's grenade season."
Yeah. You can use bouncing betties now.
We cut to nighttime camp. There's a fire going on. Drew plays a song and sings with his guitar. Bobby jokes about how he's gonna fuck his air mattress and it being like a like a piece of modern, modernism and stuff like that. Lewis hears something and then he just kind of weirdly heads into the darkness and then he like ends up like behind them and he like scares them. And then like he says he thought he heard something but doesn't know what it is, so now he feels like they're being watched. Which there's something in the book about like somebody's like grabbing the tent or something's grabbing Ed's tent, and you just kind of then there's like nothing of it. It's just kind of like a discordant. Something's out there that's touching my tent or something. But yeah, some of the guys have tents, and then like Lewis just kind of like sets up like a teepee, like just kind of sticks and then puts like a tarp over it. So he's just kind of like laying on the ground. I don't even think he has an air mattress.
Yeah, it seemed like kind of weird. It's like, is that foam even? Is he just going to be sleeping on rocks?
That's the way we just had a foam thing that you laid out to lay on the ground with. It worked pretty well. Although we had to like roll it up. They were talking about we need tight buttholes, and so you wanted to get like the roll as tight as possible. And then later on, they just came out with these ones that are square fold. They just like fold up like accordion style, and then you just put it on the back. It's like that's way easier.
Yeah.
Than wasting time trying to get the tightest roll on this bed roll here. He scares him. What the hell is this sentence? Ed talks about not being found as a kind of freedom. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, basically, he's talking about, like, nobody can find them up here, and then, like, he finds that freeing. So, and maybe that's, like, the enticement of the people that live around here is that, like, nobody's coming looking for them, and nobody's going to find them, and so to them, that's a freedom. But then you look around, and it's, like, an awful place to live. It doesn't seem to be... It doesn't seem to lift them up or support them in any way. It's all struggle. So, but it's their struggle. Cut to morning. Ed wakes up and grabs his bow. He tries to wake Lewis, but like Lewis is not having it. He seems like he's freezing. Like he's like, it's like the him freezing is keeping him asleep. Ed spots.
Yeah, it's a weird reaction. I don't know what that was supposed to mean. Something it wasn't clear to me.
Ed spots a deer and readies his bow. His hands are shaky as he holds the shot. Then he lets go and he misses wide. And the deer runs away and he pulls the arrow out of the tree. And then he kind of like falls over and like feels like, kind of ashamed for being clumsy. But like no one else saw him, so like it didn't matter. And we come back to the camp. The guys are packing up. Ed and Bobby are in the same boat together as they leave. Bobby's complaining about being eaten alive last night. He says like his bites have bites and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Bobby's not enjoying, being out in the wilderness. They stop at a shore and they see some people walking in the woods. Bobby greets them. They're not friendly. They tell them they're going the wrong way. So like, yeah, because they're like, yeah, we're going to Ankeny or whatever it is. I can't remember. Ed makes an assumption that they're like some moonshiners and tells them they don't care, but then that like triggers them. Is like, wait, what are you talking about? How do you know we don't got moonshine or got moonshine? This is a dry county or something like that. And then a guy pulls a shotgun on Ed. They tie Ed to the tree by his like utility belt, and then they threaten him with his knife, and they even like put a little cut in his chest, and it's like, yeah, that's sharp. They tell Bobby to take his pants off, which is Bobby's like, oh, okay. They have no idea what's gonna happen. Even tell him like, yeah, he's down to his white tidies, and he's like, yeah, get them panties off, and it's like, oh, this extra work. Then they chase Bobby down as he like tries to run away. It's another like weird struggle as he like runs up a hill and then he just kind of falls down it. Here's where he thought. Then basically like he tells him to squeal like a pig as he rapes him. Ed tries to like struggle free but can only like look away, and he spots like a canoe for a moment, so he kind of knows that like Lewis might be around. And they finish with Bobby, and then they turn their attention to Ed and like tell him like, yeah, this is where to get the line. He got a pretty mouth, don't he? And like, you need to start praying and stuff like that. So it's a lot of
but these scenes go on for an uncomfortably long. This is like 30 seconds. It's like it's 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, they hold on. So
you got a purty mouth, because the other guy does not.
They don't. Nobody here has pretty mouths. You see like off in the distance, like Lewis holds his shot and he shoots one of the guys as this guy gets handed the shotgun, and then Ed grabs the shotgun and the toothless guy runs off, or he's missing like both his like bottom and top front teeth.
Yeah.
They watch the guy that got shot with the arrow like slowly die, and now Lewis is wondering like what they're gonna do with the body, and Drew's suggesting like they turn the body over to the police. And then Lewis is skeptical of the justice in this part of the country, which, yeah, everything here is like, I guess, like justified about like, what are we gonna? This is a precarious situation. Like, how do we handle this? There's no good way to do it.
Ronnie Cox to look at the body, and it's like, I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. He erased that mistake. It didn't happen though. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, wrong movie.
We'll come back to this uncomfortable scene as we go to break to reset our timer. So we'll be back in just a moment.
All right.
All right, we're back. We're just waiting on Andrew. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
How goes it?
Fine.
All right, we're back. All right. Where are we in the rape scene? Or at the end of it.
Funny shot.
Let's see here. Where was I? Bobby's like disassociated at the moment. Ed helps Bobby get dressed. Lewis lays out like how the system will work against them. Basically, like everyone's related to each other here. No one's gonna believe our story, and then we're gonna get like on a murder charge. And Drew is heated about like Lewis going up for a murder charge. He's like, yeah, if we don't do this right, then we're all going up for a murder charge. And then Drew also points out like, hey, what's this other guy gonna do? Which that's kind of where like Lewis is kind of suggesting like, maybe we should kill him too. I don't know. And then Lewis points out that if they hide the body here, when the dam gets put in, nobody will find the body because it'll be under like 100 feet of water. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And also Lewis points out, he's like, I don't want to be in front of a jury of all this guy's relatives.
Yeah.
Like, we're never going to get a fair trial for this.
They take a vote on what to do with the body. Bobby votes to bury him. He says he doesn't want this getting around, which is sensible.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Lewis and Drew try to sway his vote. They ultimately vote to get rid of the body. Lewis pulls his arrow out of the guy. Which, yeah, the guy's just like stuck in like this tree branch and is just bleeding, so it's very uncomfortable. But he deserved it. They carry his body away from the scene, and then they like find a place to bury the guy, which they just dig by hand. It's like, oh, a shallow grave. Certainly that'll work when I like tons of water fills on top of it. So that's not going to get unearthed at all. They bury the guy with the shotgun, so like that's how they hide that evidence. They get back to the canoes and they start heading downstream again. Ed yells at Drew to put on his life jacket. They start to hit another set of rapids, and Drew is just like completely distraught and not following orders. I don't know if he's just like having a panic attack or what's going on here. There's a suggestion, but it's purely like up to you what's going on, that he is shot and falls in the water. So but that's
According to John Borman in the director's commentary, what happened to Drew is he essentially gave up and could not deal with the guilt of what happened.
Okay.
Now that's what the director says.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in the book, it's up for speculation too. Like they say,
Yeah.
they do the thing here in the book and here where it's like he's got a wound on his head, and like, is that a gunshot? And then they tell themselves it's a graze, but then even Bobby's like, he could have got that. His body just tumbled off so many rocks that could have been any wound from a rock hit. So, it's up for you to what happened. The canoes get tipped over. Everyone like falls into the water. Here, I think this is where like the wooden canoe gets split in half. Ed is able to grab his bow and like ride the waves on his back, which this all seems precarious. This is most where you had to get your stunt guys out here for this. So.
Yeah.
Or they just made the water look worse than it actually was. I don't know. You ever been whitewater rafting or any stuff like this?
No, I've never done that.
You've done tubing, right?
Yeah, I have done the tubing.
Okay.
But that was down it was a relatively calm river in Iowa.
Yeah. You ever done kayaking or tubing, Andrew?
Nope, can't swim.
Hey, you just got to hang on then. You know, you got a floating implement. You just hang on. So. Lewis ends up with some leg injury where like meat's hanging off his leg. I don't know if it's a compound fracture or what.
It's supposed to be a compound fracture.
Okay. I think
it's supposed to be a debilitating. In the book, it was not, but in the movie, they wanted to make it look debilitating.
Yeah. Here's where Lewis suggests that Drew was shot. Ed yells for Drew, but there's no response. And then they start planning to kill the guy that they think is shooting at them. So, because here there's nothing to suggest that they're being like it's only their own paranoia that suggests that they're being hunted down by a gunman. So I have that being the end of Act 2. This is not a long movie, so this kind of
No, it's like a nice 90.
And there's certainly it's a good adaptation because it kind of takes a lot of stuff. It strips a lot of the book out and lets the visuals do a lot of the talking. So that's which being that it's done by the author, that's like that's pretty good. Or maybe that's what him and Borman got in fistfights over. Like, you're taking everything out of the screenplay. It's like, so we got Act 3. Ed climbs the cliffs at night and to try to sneak around to the gunman. He awkwardly climbs with his bow. He makes it to the top and he just kind of like falls asleep. And then we cut to morning, and Ed wakes up and sees a guy with well, no, it's a shotgun, it's a rifle. He pulls out his bow, knocks the arrow. He pulls the string, and here he starts shaking again. He gets the shot off as the guy fires at him because the guy sees him pulling an arrow on him. So it's like, Ed falls on his arrow and it pierces his side. Very Hollywood wound, side wound. It's like, so he like just pulls the arrow through, and he starts dressing the wound immediately. And then the guy comes up to shoot Ed, but then the guy just dies because he has an arrow in his throat.
Which you're not sure that that's what's going on until the last minute. So it's kind of effective.
Yeah. There's a lot of like almost like horror movie elements to this movie. Where it's like that's how you would pace like a killer coming after like some the star of the movie or something like that.
Well, one thing I learned from this movie is I do not want to die from arrow death. It seems to linger.
Yeah, I mean that's even like I think in the book they talk about like you shoot a deer with an arrow, you have to like wait half an hour to like follow its blood trail where it just basically just bleeds to death. So
yeah, I've never heard of a one-shot stop with an arrow. I'm sure it's happened, but I know people that have one-shotted like deer with shotgun and stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, walked 5 feet and fell over. But arrows are very specific.
Here's in the book, there's more details about like how I think Lewis has like the like broadshead arrows or like the 4-point arrows, and then Ed just has like the 2-point where it's flat, and so that's kind of like allows him to stab himself with an arrow and not have like horrible damage. So
yeah,
so he can just wrap it up and carry on. And they're like, remember, like, and this is more apparent in the book, but it's like Ed is the guy. Ed's a painter essentially, or an artist, having to go like get revenge and climb a mountain to get revenge with a bow and arrow. So like this is like, you know, this is where you have like the casting of Burt Reynolds is like genius, because it's like, well, obviously this guy is going to save everybody and he doesn't. It's like it's like supposed to be like, you know, the cowardly painter who has to be a man.
And show true bravery, because John Voight actually climbed that mountain.
Okay.
They couldn't do a stunt double. And I forget what else happened.
It's pretty sheer cliff, so
yeah, it was scary. And like I said, that was that weird day for night shooting they did, where it looked very strange on the DVD I have.
Okay.
And I actually looked that up as like, why did that look so bad? And it's like, well, number one, they were out of money. And I guess the lenses you have to do to shoot that with kind of make like everything loses like depth.
Yeah.
And so it looked even less and more scary at the same time because of that. But yeah, I guess whoever was doing the cinematography and stuff, like, it hadn't worked with those kind of lenses a lot. So
oh, I completely forgot to say that whole thing. Deliverance came out August 18th, 1972. Director John Borman, cinematographer Velos Zsigmond, who does a bunch of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He did The Long Goodbye, The Deer Hunter. So he's done a lot of good movies.
Yes.
Jersey Girl.
Okay. I wouldn't think of that one, but okay.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where it's like Kevin Smith is shooting a comedy and he's like working with like an Academy Award winning cinematographer. It's always funny.
That's why I like Jersey Girl so much.
So much. It's like, yeah, I'll work on this movie. Why not?
Well,
But
he always worked with his friend. I can't remember his name. It was like Dave something. And then like when he did like movies with bigger budgets, they're like the studios were like, yeah, you can't hire your friends to shoot your movie. He's like, all right, so they had to get like more professional people. But then his friend went on to do like a bunch of TV, and he ended up becoming like he's done like fairly. He's had a career based off of Kevin Smith. So,
yeah, and I also remember I think this movie was shot in like 20 days.
okay,
Like it was something when you read it, or because I was able to piece some because mine did not have the full director's commentary. It had like an after the fact, but it didn't do the scene by scene breakdown.
oh okay, huh?
Now I think the new Blu-ray does, but I have just an actual like DVD with the paper case that's pretty old. The one where you like flip it over for special features. So yeah, that was. So yeah, but I believe the things I pieced together about this movie is it was filmed in 20 days. And then of course I think it took longer to re-record everyone's lines and stuff and put that in. And that's where the bulk of the $2 million was just to like ADR type stuff.
Well, that's the physical copy guy here, Andrew. Do you have Deliverance like in physical?
No, I just rented it on digital.
Okay.
I,
Are you going to get Deliverance?
no.
Okay.
Not gonna.
Did
My disdain for any movie made before like 1975 still pretty much holds.
What's the movie that you give it a pass from 1975?
Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying is like in general, like older movies don't play well with me. Like I don't know if it's just the style or the way they do
No,
dialogue or something.
yeah, I think it's a film stock because I'm pretty sure there's like really cool black and white movies from the 50s you'd enjoy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do have older movies but at the same time, like I still haven't watched To Kill a Mockingbird. Supposedly that's good. Just came in the mail. God damn it, I have to open my Blu-ray app. But what's the one with Jimmy Stewart where he's with Angel Gets Its Wings and the Bell and
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life.
yeah, I watched that in high school and really enjoyed it, but I haven't watched it since. Yeah, I mean, there's good movies from the 70s. 70s was a horrible decade for me. I don't really like the 70s.
Really?
So.
Okay, that's kind of seen as like
I
heyday
don't know.
of
The
movie
style's really weird. Just like some movies, like I watched Shaft and I was like, okay, this movie is not for me. This guy just steals food from people and talks and can just fuck anybody on the street. He's Shaft. So I mean, this movie's fine. It's not like bad or anything. It's just like, okay, completely predicted where the movie was gonna go after like 30 minutes, and was kind of divested after that. So.
there's some 1964 movies. I think they're 64 that I always go to. Is of course, Doctor Strangelove, which was filmed in black and white, and then I believe also that's when, fuck. What's the
Fuck was made then?
what is the Hitchcock? What's the Hitchcock slasher film?
Psycho.
Psycho. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Psycho. It's okay.
Or even go as old as like what was that one we watched where it's like the guy has like the perfect memory and it's like a spy thriller like filmed during World War II in like 1938 and it's a Hitchcock movie. Like we really like that one.
Oh, which one was that? I don't know. Let me look that up.
But yeah, Hitchcock has a lot of good stuff. So, because actually, like,
no, I mean,
like Psycho was actually like, because he'd already done like The Birds before he did Psycho, and Psycho was kind of like him doing it was seen as a more risky movie, so they filmed it in black and white so they could cut down on the budget. So it's actually or not older, it's actually a newer Hitchcock movie than you actually think it is because it's in black and white.
No, I've seen Birds, seen Psycho, seen Rear Window. As far as probably one.
I've never seen North by Northwest.
I haven't either.
That's a good one.
Okay.
I haven't seen Vertigo either. That's supposed to be a good one to watch.
I think it was the 39 Steps.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
And I have seen when we did our Criterion coverage, like there was some movies that I really respected, like Seven Samurai was really good.
Yeah. All the Kurosawa stuff's good. So.
Yeah, all the Kurosawa stuff is
High
really
Low
good.
is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it's movies that are made differently in that time period than more like modern movies and their sensibilities. Maybe like High and Low didn't seem like a movie that was out of time at all.
Yeah.
Like it was well shot and the story actually worked and didn't date
Yeah.
itself heavily.
Yeah, I think like
So,
when they went to color film, a lot of things it took a while to like fit that in. There's a lot of like films from the 60s and 70s where it's just like this is barely color, and so it doesn't really like shine. And then like
no,
the early color movies, that was the production of it was so like crazy and expensive, where you're shooting 3 rolls of film and then you're dyeing one red, one blue, and one green, and then you're merging them
yeah,
together to create colored film. That was Technicolor. So,
because technically color.
um,
No, I mean Wizard of Oz is fine. I own it just because it's like a landmark movie.
yeah.
I still I want to next Criterion sale. I was gonna buy the Criterion for 12 Angry Men.
Okay.
I still haven't watched that.
But yeah,
Citizen
a
Kane.
lot of that Norse stuff from the 40s and 50s just holds up regardless. I don't know why it just does. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of my favorite movies are from like 1979. That
Oh
was
yeah,
like
Alien.
like Alien, Stalker,
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now. But that was kind of a transitional period too,
Yeah.
because like
Well,
Stalker
because
technically a 70s film, but it's like it doesn't really seem like it anymore.
Well, also like all the the Lucas and Spielberg, all their stuff from the 70s is amazing. So like Jaws is still amazing.
I mean Tarantino touches on like 70s was a transitional period between old Hollywood and new Hollywood.
Yeah,
And like certain movies made new Hollywood happen and old Hollywood just died off and kind of became
yeah,
less relevant.
yeah. Well, once like The Godfather became the biggest thing in the world, it kind of changed a lot of things. So. You ever heard of like Francis Ford Coppola's like philosophy on family?
No.
No.
Just have the kids and figure it out. Like he basically had a family as like, well, now the film has to work because my family's counting on me.
I
Okay.
have to feed these kids. Gotta work.
He just intentionally put himself in a corner, hoping he was going to be able to like feed his family. So-
Be luck, everyone.
Which, when you think of that way, Megalopolis makes perfect sense. So,
Well, you think maybe he's just too old, and that's why, I mean, too old, and like the original idea didn't really hold up in his head, maybe over time.
I haven't actually seen the movie
Maybe
to like
originally.
what the problem is with Megalopolis. It seems like a ridiculous movie, but it might have a lot of interesting stuff to it. So I'm not sure. So, but also like Francis Ford Coppola is like, it's been a long time since he's made a good movie. Like what was it?
Yeah.
Like what did he direct the Rainmaker? Was that like his last good movie?
Question.
Knowledge break. But yeah, I mean, like Apocalypse Now nearly killed him. So, and also everybody else. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was a rough one. Probably my favorite movie of his.
yep, he directed. Yep, Rainmaker looks like his last good movie.
The Conversation's a cool one. We watched that. That's the one with Gene Hackman where he's the wire man.
Oh yeah,
Who listens to people's conversations.
I gotta watch that Bram Stoker's Dracula. I heard that's pretty interesting because I guess
I love that movie. It's ridiculous and fun at the same time.
I hear like the interesting stuff. The special effects is actually they just did a lot of like really old school special effects with like mirrors and fogs and stuff like that. So it's not really. They just did it expertly with what they had, so it's not really full of modern special effects like you think it is. It's just like clever uses of old special effects. But anyways, yeah, where were? Oh yeah, Ed's climbing a mountain, shoots a mountain man. Oh wait, there. Oh man, I completely missed this. Ed grabs his knife and basically goes to finish the job, but the guy's basically just dead already, and he kind of looks at the guy and kind of like like it's like, phew, that's over. And then he sees the guy's teeth, and he's like, wait a minute, this guy has teeth. Like, that's wrong. And even though like he reaches in the guy's mouth, the guy has like dentures that move away. So there's like, it's like, well, technically he's missing teeth, but it's like this. I don't think this is the same guy. So now they've just murdered a random person for no reason other than their own fear. So, um, Ed tosses the rifle and bow into the river. He lowers the body down off the cliff, and he uses the rope to climb down, but it snaps as he does, and he has to he slides against, he like ping pongs off a bunch of different walls and kind of like jumps away from the cliff and hits the water, so he ends up being okay. The body's in the water now. It pops back up. Ed weighs it down and tosses it back in. They keep moving along the river. They find Drew's body, and it's like badly contorted and just battered against the rocks. So his eyes are just open. And he's like, his arms just like wrapped around and stuff like that.
It turns out Ronnie Cox could actually do that. That was not something they had to mock up.
Okay.
He was just like double jointed. That way. He could just hold that position for hours.
Huh.
So yeah, it's really strange when you see it, because that sells it. It's like, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
That's no one's body looks like that.
They look at the head wound, try to figure out if it's a bullet wound or a graze, or if it's just a rock. He hit his head on a rock, and it's all speculative and up to you whether what actually happened. They grab his body as well. They have him hanging off the side of the canoe because they also threw Lewis, and Lewis is basically completely out of commission. So they just like have him in the canoe, and it kind of seems like overnight, like fever. He's given into fever or whatever, and so he's like barely alive. But yeah, they have Drew just hanging off the side of the canoe, and it seems like they're going to take him along. They say like they'll have experts to tell us what happened, but then they just weigh him down with rocks and let him go into the river. So, so that's Drew gone. Now they have to figure out how they're going to cover up his death, which is just tell his wife and move on. So, they carry on and they hit rapids again. They make it through and find a shore with some cars on it. They start getting their story straight to tell the cops. Then they continue on once more, and then they happen upon this small church that's being put up on wheels and taken away. Ed moves up the road, and they see their cars are there. So these guys actually took their cars there, as paid for. Ed asks for a phone, which they're kind of like bemused at first. Like you figure they're gonna like, what's a phone? But then they're like, yeah, we have a phone. It's like, oh, okay. So they call an ambulance. Ed and Lewis get taken away to hospital because Ed does have an open wound essentially from taking the arrow to the side. But Bobby stays and talks with the cops. We cut to Ed happens on a big dinner that Bobby's at.
Yeah. It seems to be like whatever hotel they're staying in or what. You have communal dining.
Okay.
Which might actually be a thing at that time. Probably be nice. Probably lots of biscuits and gravy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, pass it this way, please.
Ed joins in with a dinner. He kind of has like a momentary breakdown, but then they just keep going on. We cut to the cops found a piece of the wooden canoe, which is going to like fight against their story of what they told, and so now they have to reconfigure their story. Bobby and Ed fight where he just like pushes him against the wall. It's like, no, we gotta do this. Then Bobby and Ed go out with the cops to drag the river. There's a deputy there that doesn't believe their story because he's like, yeah, my cousin's husband went out hunting, never came back. These guys killed him. So it's like they're the only ones
saying what they did, and trying to like not freak out. Like, hillbilly Sherlock Holmes is put it.
They go back to the hospital to talk to Lewis. He wakes up for the first time, and Lewis is able to pick up on the clues to like not remember anything because it's going to fight against their story. And so they do that successfully. And we cut to Ed gets in Drew's car and drives it back to his wife, which this is a scene in the movie, but we never see Drew's wife in the movie here. But it's a somber scene in the movie where it's like, here's your car, your husband's dead. Sorry.
Yeah. We brought the car back, but not the man. And if you got payments, we just brought you a bill back. Figure out how to pay. Yeah.
Well, before they leave, the sheriff speaks with them, which you said that like this is the author here. before they leave. The sheriff can't pin anything on them at the moment, but he threatens them to like never come back and let the town die peacefully, which is like, oh, that's sad. So,
I kind of wanted this place to die peacefully. Don't ever come back here, boys. Don't ever do this again. Ned Beatty's like, yeah, no problem. No argument.
Remember,
from
you
us.
city boys got away with murder. One justified, one not. Ed spots a crew digging up a graveyard that's being moved because the area is going to be flooded. It's like, oh yeah, that's weird. Ed goes home to his wife and kid, which he just seems kind of like somber about it. And we have like a quick shot of a hand coming out of the water, like one of the dead bodies are like floating up. And then Ed wakes from a nightmare, and his wife kind of calms him down. This is very like Friday the 13th or something like that. And that's the end of the movie. That is Deliverance.
Yes.
He killed the wrong guy and got away with murder.
Maybe. We don't know.
Did they get revenge? I don't know. Did they?
I mean, that dude was hanging around looking over them with a rifle.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what was going on.
But yeah, the hillbilly sheriff there was like, he was out hunting, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a lot of deer on the top of a mountain?
Never hunted in northern Georgia, so.
Well, that, I mean, the hunting thing also kind of implies, like, they didn't really say if he was hunting with anybody, so maybe the two guys are out hunting. And then, like, so, I mean, to me, it's plausible it's still the right guy, because, yeah, maybe he took his dentures out, so, he could suck some dick or something. I don't fucking know. Like,
Well, it was played by the same actor, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, the thing, well, it's, with the
in the book, there's doubt.
Yeah, no, yeah. But the thing that's, I don't know, the thing that they do here is that, like, what the guy says is, like, his wife said he went out hunting, and so there's no mention that he went with somebody else. Also, like, he has a rifle, which he doesn't have in the first scene. Like, they only have a shotgun between them, which he could have got a rifle. Anything could have happened. So this is why it's completely up to you as to what's going on.
Yeah, essentially these people have been driven to such, like, this has become part of their decision tree.
Yeah.
Of like, guys from the city who are just worried about their things. I mean, except for Lewis, who has always had a glimmer in his eye about the end of the world, but essentially was these guys in every other way in terms of how his life was lived. Now all of a sudden, like, okay, now we have to plan murder. That's part of our daily thought process now until we get off this damn river, and that's why these guys.
He has to fight the justice system by not engaging with it.
Yeah.
Which is what all these people here are doing. They're just not engaging with society or the government, and then the government intercedes on their benefit anyways, and now they're extra mad. So.
Yeah, well, now they have things to hide.
Yeah, and then they have to be like, they have to guard their moonshining, because that's really or what? Yeah, was it moonshine or whiskey? Is that the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah, moonshine's just unaged whiskey.
Okay.
It's just corn spirits.
I mean, this movie's just a bunch of bad decisions in a row.
Yeah.
A bunch of men that don't know how to fucking whitewater raft decide to just try whitewater rafting.
Well, I mean, presumably Lewis does know how to do this, and even he gets fucked up. So.
Well, that's the thing, is like each of these men approach this with they each embody a trait. That, like, Lewis is bravado. Ned Beatty he like looks down on everything and everyone here. Ed is kind of he's thoughtful. He's content in a way. He's just kind of doing this to be with his friends, and Drew is like almost an innocent, like, oh, I played guitar with that kid and it was cool, and it's like, we can't cover up murder, guys. This is guitar, and so each one of them embodies a trait that and eventually Ed has to, like, lose his kind of breeziness and innocence about everything, and because he has to go kill someone, or so conceivably they're just going to rain fire down on him.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing. It's also suggested here, like, what it means to be a man, and it's like Lewis is supposed to be the ultimate man, and he basically kills somebody without thinking twice about it. It's like, yeah, I was just blinking my eye. Like, who cares? And then for Ed, it's a whole thing. It's like,
Yeah.
there's no going back once I do this. So,
Yeah, and Ed is like tormented by
Yeah.
it in his dreams and stuff. Whereas we don't know if the other guys are. Well, Ned Beatty's at the end of the movie is like, yeah, let's never see each other again. He kind of said that, or no, he says I won't be around much.
yeah.
Kind of implying it's like, yeah, I don't want anyone to know about any of this. Because supposedly it's kind of implied that like Burt Reynolds, the Lewis doesn't like Bobby. And it's also said that Bobby's like probably the most successful financially out of all of them.
Okay.
Because John Voight's like, he's real good at what he does. He's very respected. He makes a lot of money. And because Lewis is like, I still don't, because he's always like, you take that fat boy in your boat today. It's kind of, playing him off like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this guy.
I mean, do you think that Bobby got fucked in the ass because he fucks other people all the time for his money? Is that a nice metaphor there?
Well, he
insurance
has
man.
the least amount of respect for the mountain people. Like Lewis thinks they're funny and like, let's mess with them and have hard negotiation. Ed's just kind of passive, like, yeah, okay. And Drew is like really taken with this boy who can play banjo like a rock star, and he's like, oh, this is so cool, this is so interesting. And yeah, so I think like the person who's most dismissive of them, it's like, oh, they can put you in a really the worst disadvantaged position a man can be in with another man is like, because everyone talks about prison, the first thing they talk about is like, oh, you're gonna get sodomized in prison. It's like that's the first thing in everyone's mind is like like men who lift weights are going to come and use you as a toy. And it's like that is the worst thing a man can imagine.
Yeah.
And it's like demasculation in the because everyone's like, well, I'm going to fight my way out of that. That'll never happen to me. And it's like, yeah, until you get guns pulled on it's different. But yeah, so yeah, because a lot of like that's something that's never far from, especially in male psychology, is being dominated that way by another man. It's like the worst thing that can happen. Some people would like, I would rather take a knife, than do that. Well,
I mean, there's a guy I work with that literally said if anybody tried to perform CPR mouth to mouth on him, he said it was gay and he wouldn't accept it. It's
that's very that's someone who's really comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
Life-saving stuff is like, no, you're trying to turn me gay. It's like, dude, if it's that easy,
Don't worry, they got that little squeeze thing they can do the breath with. So
they don't want to put their mouth on yours either. It's
why the thing like I thought they didn't do the breath thing anymore because I thought it was like, oh, you're just breathing carbon dioxide into someone's mouth and like that doesn't help. And then like I looked into it and they're like, well, yeah, your lungs don't perfectly convert oxygen into carbon dioxide, so you're not just breathing pure carbon dioxide into someone's mouth. But anyway,
oh no, yeah, our blood would be like flammable.
Have you seen the Pit show?
No,
It's a medical.
Not yet.
It's a medical drama. Noah Wiley's back as a medical doctor. It's done. Every episode is 1 hour in the hospital. So it even makes a hospital look even more insane because every episode just seems like a normal hospital show, and then you realize like, oh, that's just been 2 hours at the hospital. It's like all this garbage happening. But what's nice, it's
think like someone coming in with a sword sticking out of him. It's like, oh, that's a once a month thing at least. It's like, nah, that's the first 15 minutes.
But what makes it interesting is that it's on Max, so they don't have like limits they have to work in. So swearing in a hospital drama is like a kind of a unique thing to see.
Yeah.
Because I think hospital dramas get away with a lot, especially with gore, because I think it's seen as maybe informative, and so they can kind of do crazy stuff on hospital dramas, but they still couldn't swear. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's for a hospital drama, it's pretty good. So
okay. Nathan, I heard you watched Heretic as well.
Yes.
What did you think of that movie?
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought some of it was a little another plane crash, folks. Another plane crash. I thought some of it was a little I thought it was going one direction, and I knew it's like, oh, it's simulation theory. That's his thing. That's it. But it was kind of like, no, it's actually it's still not known. But I did find it interesting how he knew so much about religion and had come up with all, like, he had a shrine to religion and like, this is why they're fake. And I did enjoy the acting in it. The end, it didn't quite pay off for me, but I didn't think it would. I don't know. What was your thoughts?
I don't know. I really enjoyed. I actually kind of almost wanted to have a conversation with the with Hugh Grant's character because I identify with a lot of his thing or beliefs about religion, especially like the everything kind of is the same and not existing, and everybody rips off one another. And his Monopoly analogy was really cool. I mean, the way they wrote that, because at first when he pulled out Landlord, I was like, oh, where the fuck are they going with this? And it's like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, the ending didn't pay off as well either, because I kind of didn't expect the meeker girl to be the final girl, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, in general, I thought Hugh Grant's role was good, but also maybe played up a little bit buzz-wise. Like, he did a really good job, but he wasn't like the star of the movie. I think like the girls did a good job of acting as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought they were going to do simulation theory, but then they didn't. But
Well, you see Topher Grace in the movie for like 2 minutes, but he didn't really have any dialogue or interaction with anybody for some reason.
yeah, I forget what the deal. Me and Stacy did a dive on that movie because we watched it together. I know like the people that made it were actually like Mormons, or they were former Mormons, and they had a lot of knowledge about the Mormon
They're
church.
Formans.
Yeah. So I thought that was it, because everything he said, like, because I've always been fascinated by the Mormons too, and I've read all kinds of books about, like, the things that went on when the founding of that church, and I mean the modern day doesn't really interest me so much. Some of it does, but a lot of the history of that church is amazing. Under the Banner of Heaven is a good book to start to read about the Mormon church, because it talks about the that's why when all that stuff happened with the polygamists and what was that place called, Colorado City or whatever, it's like everyone's like, oh wow, they got this weird like because what was that called, the RLDS or whatever, the Reformed. The people that stayed with polygamy are an offshoot of the Mormon church. And yeah, those, it's like, well, yeah, I heard about that in that book. John Krakauer wrote that book in 2003. And it's it's a good way to get into it if you're interested. John Krakauer books are always cool. So.
Yeah, I've only read it in Thin Air. I haven't read any of their books.
Oh yeah, read Under the Banner of Heaven. If you liked this movie and kind of its thoughts on Mormonism and religion in general, it's like, yeah, it's Under the Banner of Heaven's a great book to read. And then the book he wrote about Pat Tillman was pretty cool too.
Huh.
What's that called? Something about glory and justice or something.
I don't think I've read any of his books. I know you've mentioned Under the Banner of Heaven.
Yeah, Under the Banner of Heaven's like one of my top 10 favorite books, because it's like, why were these people killing, and what is, and I didn't know polygamy was still going on in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
Like I said, this book was written in 2003, and then all this new stuff comes out in 2018. Like, there's crazy people being polygamous. Can you believe this? I was like, I'm prepared for this. Yes, I can. I've read the book. It's like, yeah, Warren Jeffs is an evil guy. Yes, he is. He is an evil man. But yeah. But I enjoyed Heretic. I enjoyed it a lot. I own it. So.
Oh, okay.
Buy a movie nowadays.
Do you buy the 4K or the Blu-ray?
I just own it digitally.
Oh, okay.
But I
I
paid
was saying, because
$25.
I guess A24 is only doing 4K sales to their website, so I picked up the Blu-ray at Walmart.
Oh, okay.
And they all have like art cards from the set and stuff like that inside of them. So,
Huh.
and the special features, Other movie that I watched last weekend that was really good was The Dead Don't Hurt.
Okay.
Viggo Mortensen's directorial western.
Okay.
How was
He
that?
also wrote it and composed it.
Oh, really? No shit. Huh.
Yeah, it's a second directorial movie because the other one came out during the pandemic and obviously bombed. So, I mean, this is a second attempt at a director at directing a movie. He didn't actually want to star in it. He just was forced to because all of his actors were not available.
Oh.
And it's the only western I've ever seen that focuses primarily on the woman. Like it's really well done. The villain's
Well, what about the Quick and
good
the
in
Dead?
it.
Yeah, no. Sorry.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say is it Russell Crowe still like a main lead in Quick and the Dead, or
Yeah,
is
but
it?
Sharon Stone's the lead of that movie.
Oh, okay. Well, between Gene Hackman, Leo DiCaprio, and
Yeah, I
then
guess it's more of an ensemble cast, so yeah, it's a lot of.
okay. I've only seen it once, so I don't really remember every bit of that movie. So
We did it for the show. I always liked that movie. I liked it even better the second time around because it's just so simple and quick and how it does everything, and so many people are unknowns at that time in the movie. Like you don't know like Russell Crowe's going to be a huge actor, and here he is in just a bit role and stuff like that. But anyways,
no, you're fine. No, it was a no. I'm sorry. I just recommended it because I picked it up on Blu-ray, and it's a movie that has like 4 different languages in it between Danish, French, Spanish, and English, but it has no subtitles.
Huh.
Only has subtitles when French people are speaking. But at the same time, it was a
yeah.
really good movie.
I remember,
The actress in it was really good.
I remember I was watching Bridge of Spies, and there's a scene where he's in East Germany or he's in Berlin, and he's like in the East Germany part of it, and he to make it seem more scary, he's talking to East German soldiers, and they don't subtitle what he's saying, so it'll sound more scary. But basically, he's asking like, "Hey, where's the courthouse?" And then what they say and what I Americans like, I know that phrase. They go "gleich die Ecke," which means it's right around the corner. It's like, oh, that's not scary.
I guess I didn't know you guys. I mean, I figured you guys probably watched that movie. I never heard anything about it since I haven't really watched a lot of the
Well,
recent
Nathan
Tom
probably read
Hanks
40 books
filmography.
on it, so he's probably unimpressed with it. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Which one's that?
Bridge of Spies.
Oh no, that's a great movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty closely related to what actually went on.
Okay.
And it actually did a pretty good job of like Francis Gary Powers was a lot more conflicted man than what anyone. Well, he wasn't conflicted personally, but he should have never had that job and that security clearance because his wife was a complete mental case, and everyone in the Air Force knew it. So yeah, he was a very he was kind of a conflicted man both before and after that because everyone was like, "Why didn't you just kill yourself?" It's like, who wants to do that? We gave you a cyanide capsule. You did. So
No, because I haven't seen. I just recently picked up Captain Phillips. I haven't watched it yet, and I haven't watched Greyhound, Bridge of Spies, his newer movie that came out and didn't do well. The one where he's in a house the entire time with his co-star.
Oh,
from
okay,
Most of them.
the Back to the Future guy. It's a house where it's like it's the same shot, but it's like the house through like 100 years, and it's the same exact shot, and they basically just Tom Hanks they de-age and age them, like, and it's all in one shot, just the same exact frame, and then just they kind of act into that frame. I can't remember if it's called like House or something like that, but yeah, it's
I think
Greyhound's
Home. Maybe it's Home. I
maybe
can't.
Home Alone.
Grey,
No.
Greyhound's not bad.
Great, yeah, Greyhound's good.
Um,
Like it's a good World War II submarine movie. So, although that's like probably for us, that's probably not hard to do. It's like so.
well, I mean, there's only like
It's fun
3 or
as
4 of
possible,
those.
but it's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I always like U571, but I don't know if that holds up any as well anymore.
I don't remember liking that when I saw it, but it's
Is
probably
that the one
fine.
with Matthew McConaughey?
Is it? I can't remember
No,
who the hell
but
the actor
it
is in
does
that
have like
movie.
a guy in the movie that's like he doesn't fit here, but let's see here. The movie's called Here. It's a Robert Zemeckis movie, which he hasn't done a good movie in forever. So I guess it's based on like a comic book or something. But
It's an expensive comic book movie.
No, yeah, it's Matthew McConaughey.
oh, it is okay.
Oh, okay.
Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, Harvey Keitel, John Bon Jovi.
That's
Jake-
the one. That's that place one. I was like,
Okay, I
is
was-
Harry Connick Jr. in there or something? It's like, no, it's John Bon Jovi. Okay, that makes sense. Well, we're sending a probe into space containing these super kind of scenes from the imperfect collection of the movies of the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
Probably the canoe scene. No, I'm kidding. It's when Ned Beatty gets sodomized. I mean, it's actually that's what everyone would pick.
Yeah.
As an alternative, when John Voight has to climb up the rocks, even though it's a weird day for night, it's like it shows the best character progression, I guess, in the movie. But yeah, you're gonna do the Ned Beatty scene.
Okay.
Because you just want everyone to be like, what is going on here? Why is Lex Luthor's sidekick? What's happening to him? Yeah.
Yeah, I would pick the dueling banjos scene.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Just because it shows that humans are creative and can bond together even though they don't like each other.
You can find us at Letterboxd, username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Deliverance?
I'm gonna give Deliverance 4 stars.
Okay.
For being very good, not perfect maybe, but being very good. As our John Borman film threat moves on, this is definitely probably what he's best known for, maybe second best known for. In America, definitely what he's best known for.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good movie. It made a lot of money. It was one of the highest grossing films of 1972.
Okay.
On what even was considered a modest budget for a major release film back then. That was $2 million. Was not a lot of money to make a movie in the early 70s. So.
Did this get any Oscar nominations?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it just made a lot of money.
Okay. I mean, oftentimes on this podcast, where at least I am very dismissive of the Oscars, because it's like, why the fuck did you pick that movie? Because I know like Nope was the crazy one, where it's like this movie is an instant classic. It's like how many?
Yeah, it's clearly one of the best movies made in the last 25
years. I was like, how many Oscar nominations did it get? It's like, 0. It's like, you're fucking insane. So it's
or like
nominated for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or like this year's hot contender, Amelia Perez or whatever, that horrible movie that supposedly everybody hates.
Oh, I don't even know what it is.
It's like a Hot Topic musical about trans people and women's rights, but it's horribly acted and apparently not very good.
It got picked for the message, not for its execution.
Yeah, but it has the most noms of any movie this year, so it's kind of disheartening to see that. There's probably other movies that are more deserving.
Yeah,
than
well,
that.
I mean, you're gonna get that, whereas like you're gonna have your blockbusters, and then you're gonna have like your indie movies. That's what you get to pick and meet. There's no middle films anymore. So.
Well, because I don't think The Holdovers came out last year, right? If I remember right, in 2024.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, because it was like a Christmas movie or something like that.
So I'm kind of wondering like why the hell that didn't get any noms, because that was like my movie of the year last year was that movie.
It's chosen by an organization, like people send out ballots and like these are our films, so.
Okay.
So maybe it's a bunch of secretaries filling these things out for their rich actor.
Well, I'm surprised that Beetlejuice didn't get a lot more Oscar noms.
But again, that just goes to show.
Here's how the Academy. This is what the Deliverance was up against: The Godfather.
Okay, all right.
And for Best Director, the Bob Fosse won for Cabaret, but he was also against Francis Ford Coppola for The Godfather. So yeah, actually, if maybe they'd done it a different year, they might have.
Okay.
They might have won. But yeah, that's some pretty stiff. Because it was also nominated for Best Editing.
Okay. Yeah.
For the Academy Awards, but it didn't win anything. It didn't win any British Academy, but it was surely nominated for everything.
Yeah, but like this movie has like stuck in the culture's mind, so it's made its mark.
Oh yeah,
so.
yeah, it's definitely. I would say, yeah, this is probably John Borman's most well-known American film. Um, and I think like Excalibur will probably be the most like European international film. Even though it's like that's a movie I watched like 500 times. So,
well, you can find our podcast at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us on monthly stipend of 99 cents 49 or 9.99, cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast on our platform of choice. You can rate us however you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, fight the algorithm with all your phones.
every cell in your body.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us at Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.